Hey there, I'm Becca. I'm a mental health therapist and a Christian coach. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my story of how I started a journey of healing almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in September that I started this journey that God has me on, and it has been incredibly hard but incredibly amazing at the same time. And I just think that it's important for you to know a little bit about me before I really dive into a YouTube channel. So just sharing this part of my testimony. So I have known the Lord my whole life. I grew up in church, loved the Lord so much, but I got divorced about 8 or 9 years ago, and I didn't think that would ever be a part of my story. It wasn't something that I ever thought was going to happen, and it absolutely broke me in so many ways. And so instead of running to the Heavenly Father, I ran away from the Heavenly Father in my pain, in my hurt, in my stress, and in my brokenness. And so for many years, I ran far away from where God had for me. Sorry guys, I talk with my hands, that's what I do. But I ran far away from where God had for me and what He had called me to. And I really didn't have any hope left. I had gotten to the point where I felt like, you know what, the only thing that I could do is hold on until my daughter turns 18, and then I'll just kill myself. Like, that was my perspective, because I thought that I had nothing left to offer. I thought that because I had a divorce that I was damaged goods. I thought that because I had been running from what I knew God created me to be, and because I had been in a string of bad relationships after my divorce, that it must be confirming what I know about myself, which is that I'm damaged, I'm broken, I'm not good, right? And so because of that, I ran far from Him. But about almost 2 years ago, I got out of an incredibly terrible relationship, and I came to Florida to get away from my ex, and I drove here, and honestly, I started a whole new world. I started a whole new life. It was just me and God. And I thought, you know what, God, what do you have for me in a place where I know no one? What do you have for me in a place where it's just you and I? And it was really scary. I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you didn't know anybody and you're starting your whole life over again. But that's where I was at. I was in a place where I didn't know a single person. But now I look back on that time and I recognize that God brought me here to learn more about Him and to have a time of just like complete aloneness. Is aloneness a word? Just me and Him, just the two of us, me fully relying on Him. So I went to church one day when I was here, after I got here, and I felt like the Lord told me, it's time for you to grieve. It's time for you to grieve your marriage, the loss of your marriage. It's time for you to grieve expectations, the loss of expectations where you thought your life would be at this point. It's time for you to grieve the bad relationships you've been in, the way that you've allowed yourself to be seen, and the way that you've allowed yourself to see yourself, right? And I thought, my marriage, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's been 8-9 years. Like, I have absolutely grieved the loss of my marriage. And God said, no, you haven't. You need to fully grieve. And so I took 21 days and I did nothing but grieve. I mean, I worked, but I literally just cried and cried and cried and grieved and wailed and grieved before the Lord. And He healed so much in me in that 21 days. After the 21 days, I came back to Him and I said, God, now what? What am I supposed to do? What do I do now? And He said, this is when I felt hope for the first time in 9 years. He said, no one can pluck you from my hand. He said, you're mine, and I am yours, and there is no reason in which you have to run from me. He's my Father, and He loves me, and that was the first time in so long I realized He still loved me, and He still cherished me, and He still saw me as worthy of dying for. Even after all of those decisions and mess-ups and things that I had been through, He still saw me in that light. And so I said, okay, God, I'm here. I'm scared to feel the hope. Have you ever been in the place where you've been scared of hope? That's where I was. I said, I want to feel hope. I want to feel hope that I don't have to die early, that I don't have to kill myself, that I'm not going to die. At that time, I was over 300 pounds. And I said, I don't want to die of heart failure or of stress or becoming, addicted to anything, because that's the road that I was going down. And God said, he paralleled the story to the prodigal son. If you've never read that parable, go and read it. It's amazing. But He said, my daughter, it's time for you to get up out of the pig pen, dust yourself off, and act like you're mine. And it was in that moment that I realized that he still loved me. He still saw me as his. I just didn't see myself as his. And so that's when my healing process started. That's when I surrendered all of who I am to my Heavenly Father. And I said, God, you have to heal these things in me. I went to therapy. I worked on myself. I started getting coaches. I read everything that I could put my hands on about how to heal from abuse, how to heal from disappointment, from extreme disappointment in your life when you thought things would go one way and they went the other. And I poured into myself, recognizing that for the first time that I was worth that. And God has done such a healing work in my heart. I could do 10, 15, 20 videos about that, and I probably will. But over the last 8 months alone, I have lost 85 pounds at this point. I started a new coaching company. I started a nonprofit that the Lord told me to start. I have found so much healing, and that is where this desire to do this YouTube channel comes from, because I have so much excitement and admiration for my Heavenly Father that it just spills out. But also I remember being in that place where I felt hopeless, and I thought, just get me through to where my daughter turns 18 and that's it. I can kill myself, because that's the only hope that I'm ever going to have, is that eventually this life will end. I want to speak to those of you who are in those positions. Those of you who haven't started that healing process yet. Those of you who are running from what God has for you. Those of you who are so hurt and they think that God sees you as damaged, like you see yourself as damaged. That is why I started this YouTube channel. So I'm going to be posting weekly. I'm going to be posting about things related to mental health, spiritual health, emotional health, right? About healing in your faith. I'm really excited, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background. Thank you so much for taking time to listen. Remember that God redeems all things. He redeems all things. Everything that you feel like you've lost, everything that you think that you've lost, everything that you believe has been robbed from you, He can restore that to you. And not just the way that it was, but even better. Remember that if you are in our Heavenly Father and you love Him and you have committed your life to Him, that no one can pluck you from His hand. His word says that His gifts and calls are irrevocable. That means when He speaks them and He calls you, it's not something that can be revoked. Remember that. Thanks so much.